Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome to an amazing game of the ChessKid Division 1 Super Final between the two top grandmasters Yordan van Foreest and Nodirbek Abdusattorov. So these two guys I think made a huge impact in the super event because both of them played really sharp, ultra aggressive chess. Yordan van Foreest played his immortal game against Hikaru Nakamura with a beautiful queen sacrifice, outplayed the big Hikaru. On the other hand, in this super event, Nodirbek Abdusattorov outplayed also the big Fabi. He outplayed Fabiano Caruana and is now one step far away from the grand final of this beautiful chess event, because the concept of this ChessKid events is a little bit different. Although you lose sometimes maybe a match, but still you can get back into the tournament. You just get thrown into the losers division, and then from the losers division still you can reach the super final. So in my opinion, it's a good concept. It's a little bit different, but I think it's an attractive big one because you can then play much more freely. You can play more aggressively. If you lose, of course, a match, then still have the opportunity to get back in the super event. So let's see now one beautiful game. Here we have Yordan van Foreest against Nodirbek Abdusattorov. We will call it the decisive game because they played 3 draws. So he wins now this game, is now the winner, and will reach now the grand final against Fabiano Caruana. So let's see now what happened. The Yordan van Foreest with the white pieces opened with the move d4. Nodirbek Abdusattorov's response was d5, c4. We have the queen's gambit, and now Nodirbek plays his favorite opening. I've seen it many times now. Nodirbek is accepting now the queen's gambit, which is a rare opening, we have to say it, but I'm not sure why top grandmasters now these days are playing it much more often, because it's, I think, a direct way to go. Basically you're forcing now a white into very solid line for black. After knight to f3, knight to f6, e3, e6, and of course, okay, white will eventually get the pawn back, but now after move a6 and a potential b5 move, the black can always make progress here on the queen side, and then maybe we'll hit even the center further with move c5, so we'll gain at least a tempo against the bishop on a4, and then of course also will play aggressively against the solid structure in the center against the pawn on e3 and d4. So in the game casting by Yordan van Foreest, c5 by Nodirbek, we have b3, because this move is now very often also played, because after potential b5, bishop to e2 or bishop to d3, still have a good control then of the c4 square. If you play something else, if you play maybe knight to c3, then of course black has the opportunity to kick you away with the move b5, can also play the follow-up against the knight on c3, so it's a little bit different. b3, one of the most solid ways here to proceed for white. So in the game b6, so here Nodirbek is not rushing with the move b5, he wants still to have a great grip around the square c5. If something gets cleared, of course d takes c5, then of course the bishop can recapture, and we have also a compact position here on the queen side. Bishop to b2, bishop to b7, both players playing a fianchetto, bishop to e2, knight to d7 by Nodirbek, knight to d2 also by Yordan van Foreest, bishop to e7, and we have, I think, here a certain symmetry. It's not, of course, the perfect symmetry because white has 2 centralized pawns. On the other hand, black has only 1. But this can change, I think, in the next couple of moves. As c takes d4, white will be also left then also with just 1 pawn in the center of the board. So it's, I think, really solid position for both sides. Many times these types of positions, these types of structures end with a draw. So now here Yordan van Foreest changes the dynamics of the game immediately, changes also the pawn structure, because as we said, after move c takes d4, knight to d4, the pawn structure would be pretty much symmetrical. Now after move knight to e5, Yordan van Foreest is trying at least somehow to spice up the game by creating an asymmetrical pawn structure, because here after move knight to e5, d takes e5, Nodirbek accepted the challenge and has now, of course, provoked some weaknesses in white's position, which are, of course, now the e3 pawn and also the e5. We have a double pawn structure, but of course we have to say it, there is also a good part about this line for Yordan van Foreest. He has now the space advantage. He has now the pawn on the 5th rank, which occupies, of course, the other side of the board of his opponent. So it's always like this in life. Sometimes you have an advantage, sometimes you have a disadvantage, but many times, of course, it's very important to create at least dynamics in the position. You don't want to play, of course, two drawish positions. So good choice, I think, by Yordan to spice up the game somehow. So knight to d5, we have bishop to f3, competing against this bishop on b7 on this long diagonal, queen to c7, and now a3 by Yordan. He's trying to play queen to c2, connecting also his rooks by moving the queen from the first rank. And then of course if queen to c2 happens, then the knight could jump on b4, be a little bit annoying against the queen on c2. So that's why a3, a prophylactic move here by Jordan van Foreest. Kingside castling, queen to c2, rook to d8, rook from a to c1, rook to d7. So here Nodirbek is trying of course to build a battery on the d file, and maybe in some lines playing maybe a dangerous tactic against this a little bit loose knight here on d2. So we have here rook from f to d1. That's why Jordan is protecting it. We have now here this open d file, and of course you have to play on a competition. So rook from a to d8, and now Jordan makes a tiny little inaccuracy in the game. He plays now the move knight to e4, and so far this is not so dangerous. This is not such a bad move. We'll call it like this. Knight to e4 is not so good, because you should play knight to c4 here. When the knight is on c4, then actually it cannot, it's not overloaded. A little bit, look at this. When we play knight to e4 like Jordan played, the bishop and the queen are a little bit overloaded to the defense of the knight on e4, and there is always this dangerous bishop that's targeting now the e4 knight. I'm telling you this because this will have an important role now in the continuation of the game. At the beginning it doesn't seem so that something is going on now in this position, but you see now how problematic really this move knight to e4 was by Jordan van Foreest. As we said, after move knight to c4 that you play, you still keep your diagonal opened, and with the same plan, probably you want to jump, of course, with your knight on d6. Look at this. Maybe black continues with the move b5. Then you have this beautiful resource, knight to d6. We have a bishop to d6, e takes d6, and the problem is now you cannot take with the queen because you get e4, and the queen is lined up against the rook. So this would be really, really devastating here for black. So of course you cannot also take with the rook because you get then bishop to e5. The rook is lined up on darts where like the queen, and white is winning the exchange and probably the game. So you see, knight to e4 can be also met with the move knight to d6. I'm not saying you can not to do the same, but here after move queen to c8 that Nodirbek played, he didn't want to get attacked by the knight. Now simply here queen to b1 was Jordan van Foreest's continuation. We have queen to a8. Notice, as we said, the knight would be much better on c4 than it is on e4, because there is now a certain tension around the square. Pay good attention how the game is continued. Now, after move h3 that Jordan van Foreest continues, we have also h6 by Nodirbek. We have bishop to a1. Probably bishop to a1 is an idea to play maybe queen to b2 and then jump with the knight on d6 again. After bishop to d6, e takes d6. Then, of course, this long diagonal gets liberated. In some lines, you can even deliver maybe a beautiful checkmate on g7 by playing maybe a bishop and queen battery on dark rows. But now comes the critical moment of the game. Here a5 was played by Nodirbek, and I think you should continue now with your plan. Knight to d6, sacrificing maybe even the pawn, but just in order maybe to somehow spice up the game and liberate now the long diagonal. But now queen to c2 was played by Jordan van Foreest, and this was now a huge mistake, which actually is almost even winning almost here for black immediately on spot. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now here the winning idea for black. Nodirbek sensed this move immediately. He spotted this possible tactic, and he basically destroyed here Jordan van Foreest. So pay good attention. Maybe, as I said, try to solve this mini puzzle. Try to see now the best continuation here for black. Okay, here's the stunning tactic. Knight takes e3. This is really brilliant stuff by Nodirbek. Of course, it comes with a direct threat against the queen. And notice now the problems of the knight on e4. As we said, it would be much better if the knight would be now on c4, but it's now a different story. After move knight to e3, what can you do? Let's see first the line that Jordan didn't play. If you play f takes e3, then of course rook to d1 is going to happen. Rook to d1, rook to d1, queen to d1, or bishop to d1. Whatever happens, one of these pieces will be deflected from the defense of the knight on e4. Look at this, bishop to e4. You can play maybe something like this, but in my opinion, this completely winning, especially because of this messed up pawn structure on the king side. But black gained also an extra pawn, so it's now I think a one-way ticket in black's favor. So after move knight to e3, here Jordan tried rook to d7, but actually it's not working. Knight to c2, a simple move here by Nodirbek. We have a rook to b7, queen to b7. Now basically the whole tactical sequence is now forced, because after knight to f6 that Jordan is playing, of course it comes now with a beautiful check, but also with the discovered attack against the queen. But here it's a calm game now for Nodirbek. He plays basically what he has to play. Everything else is not so good for black. After bishop to f6, of course Jordan picks up now here the queen on b7. Now comes knight to a1. We have a rook to a1, and now bishop to e5. If you play, of course, e takes f6, then here the pawn on b3 is hanging, so the same story. Again, a bad game here for white. So as we said, after knight to a1, rook to a1, bishop to e5, and here black is up 2 pawns. Has now also in some lines even some checkmate threats. If you, for instance, leave the protection of the back rank, then it's immediately checkmate here. So that's why here first rook to e1 had to be played by Jordan. We have bishop to c3 attacking now the rook, rook to e2, rook to d1 with the check, king to h2, and here after move rook to b1. In this position, Jordan van Foreest even resigned. So what's the point? You cannot, of course, protect the pawn. What should you do in the next move? So you will lose the b pawn. Then white is down even 3 pawns. So in top grandmaster level, I think this means that black is winning for sure. So great game by Nodirbek. He outplayed here really Jordan van Foreest in a sharp tactical way. Is now in the grand final. So in the grand final he played now against Fabiano Caruana again, because Fabi lost the game against Nodirbek Abdusattorov because of this regulations of the super event. Had the opportunity to get back in the event, played eventually against Jordan van Foreest, won his game against Jordan, and is now playing again against Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the grand final of the ChessKid Premier Division Super Final. So in my opinion, it will be still an epic battle between the two of them. Nodirbek already won his game in his event against Fabiano Caruana, but now Fabi has maybe his time for revenge, but we'll see. If Nodirbek plays like this, I think he's even the favorite to win the whole thing. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Interesting ideas of the Queen's Gambit accepted for sure. Very wild how Nodirbek is playing this beautiful opening in such an amazing way. If you want to see more Nodirbek chess games, and maybe also this beautiful sharp tactical game that was played by Jordan van Foreest against Hikaru Nakamura, here are some links of some games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.